Hey winners, look, welcome to Terry's Tips, guys. Get a notebook, get a pen, because I purchased property number one when I was only 21 years old, making $14 an hour. If you out there make more than $14 an hour, you can purchase a whole property. And guys, that very first house changed everything for me. It was the very first time I realized that looking good on paper can change your life and the lives of everybody connected to you. So in this video, I'm going to share with you why I purchased that first property, how I did. I'm actually going to run them numbers for you so you guys can realize that it's real. And I'm also going to give you the steps so you can do it as well. And pause. Mind you, for some of you, this video is for you, but some of you, this could be for your sons, for your daughters, for your nephews, for your nieces, for your brothers, for your sisters, for your godchildren. So mind you, 21, come on somebody, being a property owner can change everything. Now I'll do my nugget at the end. So first, why? Why was it so important? For some of you, literally, I mean it. You're in position to buy a house right now, and I mean it. But just because you're unclear on the process is the only reason why you haven't executed, and because you don't really believe. So mom at the age of 17. I was a teen mom at the age of 17. Purchased property number one at the age of 21 and retired myself from corporate America at the age of 38. And like I said, been a completely self-employed entrepreneur and investor since 38 years old. Now, why is that important to you? Because you guys see the brand now today, but what you don't realize is how it started with me being in foster care, me being in group homes, minority, female, teen mom, both of my parents addicted to drugs, a very unstable upbringing. Now, I'm sharing that with you because, guys, do not be a victim of your circumstances, because one thing about leveraging credit to build wealth, which this whole channel is about, is that the same way I did it is the same way you can do it. Our credit scores are the exact same thing, okay? So the reason why it was important to me is because of my unstable upbringing, because of being in foster care, because of being in group homes. When I became a mom at the age of 17, I was like, I want to buy a house for stability. I want my son to have one place to call home. And mind you, I'm going to run the numbers for you, but I was paying for, at the time, I was paying $475 for a crappy apartment in a horrible neighborhood in Philadelphia. And it was small. It was in the basement. It was horrible. And I went from paying $475 for a small apartment in the city in a bad neighborhood to owning my very own property for only $525 a month. 3-bedroom row home. I hope I got your attention. So guys, how I did it. So first things is that the very first house, guys, was not in mansion, right? It was an $80,000 3-bedroom row home. That's important for you guys to know, because some of you guys think that property number one has to be this great big mansion. No. Nugget number one, let property number one just be a level up from where you are, and then you continue to grow and scale and grow and scale. So I was in a small apartment in a bad neighborhood in Philadelphia, okay? And I went from that being $475 to owning a 3-bedroom row home in Upper Darby. Shout out to all my Philadelphia tri-state people if y'all know what I'm talking about. And Upper Darby is a suburb right outside of the West Philadelphia area. So it was a little bit of a better neighborhood, a little bit of a better school district. Not so much right now, okay? But back then, right? And mind you, I'm 44 years old, y'all. I'm gonna be transparent about my age, okay? And so this is before social media. So it wasn't for the gram. It wasn't for YouTube. There was not masterclasses. There was not videos like this to walk me through it. I just had a strong enough why, because I wanted my son to have stability, and I hustled because I had a job. I had already been working for TransUnion. Come on, somebody. I worked for TransUnion. I'm one of the only people in this credit space that work for a national credit bureau. That's important to you because I was updating tens of thousands of reports for people across the USA before social media even existed, which is why now's a great time to like and share and subscribe, that I walk people through getting 6- and 7-figure results, because I've been doing this for over 20 years. Okay, so I knew to work on my credit, and I knew that I could apply looking good on paper to myself to buy this very first property. So $525 myself. I was making $14 an hour. So property number one was $80,000. Now pause. A mortgage, first-time home buyer mortgage, guys, is usually 30 years. Guys, do the numbers, do the numbers, do the numbers. $80,000 divided by 30 years meant the principal on my house was only $222 a month. $222 a month. The reason why my mortgage payment was $525, everybody who has a mortgage right now, you understand this, that your payment is your mortgage, your taxes, and insurance. So my mortgage, taxes, and insurance were $525 a month to own a 3-bedroom row home. Now, mind you, I was making $14 an hour. So let me talk to you about that. $14 an hour meant that I was making about $1,100 per paycheck. Full-time, $1,100 per paycheck. That means about $2,200. I'm rounding the numbers for the sake of this being easy, because you guys need to understand that just level up from where you are, scale your money, build your credit, and then you buy another property. And then you can either sell that property or you can rent it out, and you rinse and repeat. You rinse and repeat. Okay? So I was bringing home my paycheck, $14 an hour, working full-time. I was about $2,200 a month. My mortgage, taxes, and insurance were only $525 a month. So when I went to go apply for a mortgage, my debt to income ratio was fine. Now pause. I'm 21 years old at this point. So now I have 2 degrees from Villanova University. Back then I hadn't gone to school yet. I didn't have my degrees yet. I didn't have a bunch of cars. I didn't have a bunch of credit cards. I think I'm dating myself, right? I already told you I was 44, but I had Strawbridges. Y'all, shout out to everybody who remembers Strawbridges. Strawbridges was my favorite store. Okay. So I had like a Strawbridges card. I think I had like 2 Visas cards, and I had a personal loan, and that's it. Nugget right here. You don't need 80 million things on your credit report to have good credit. You need revolving credit, installment credit, and you need to pay it on time. And a good 12, 24 months of payment history will give you a high score. I had over 700 scores on all 3 credit bureaus, and I had low debt. I had a personal loan, because mind you, the car I had that time, I had got a buy here, pay here. I had a little rinky-dinky car. Wasn't like my car was super expensive. So I had no student loans. I had no great big crazy car note. I had a personal loan, a retail card, and a couple of credit cards. Over 700 scores. Let's talk about employment. I had been at my job at this point. I was 21 years old. I had been at my job for 3 years. Nugget, write this down. You need 3 things to buy a property: income, assets, credit. Write it down. Income, assets, credit. And to be honest with you guys, usually when you're renting somewhere, you're paying first month's, last month's in security. So if you can hustle up a couple $1,000s for first month's, last month's in security, you can hustle up the money you need for a down payment, because I'm going to tell you how not only did I get seller's assistance, but I also got down payment assistance. I bought my house with $1,800 out of pocket. You can't tell me you can't do that to change your entire life. $1,800. I'm even going to talk to you about. So shout out to Gina from Century 21. Gina, if you remember me, that was my very first realtor. She was a dual agency. That meant that she represented the buyer and the seller. Okay, and literally one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to bid on this property is because I had my mortgage pre-approval in hand. I could close quickly. So at the time, guys, nugget, the property I was buying, the family was moving out of it because the husband's job had relocated them, so they wanted to close quickly. That's a nugget. When you have good credit, you have your mortgage pre-approval in hand, everything is all set. I'm putting in an offer. I could close quickly because everything was all done, okay? So I put in a bid on the property. They gave it to me. We closed in like 30 days. So income, assets, credit. At the time, I had over 700 credit scores. Now, nowadays, I know I am connected, guys. I have a wealth building ministry. I am connected right now to lenders that will approve you at a 620, a 640, some even at a 600, even though I don't recommend that you buy a house with a 600 credit score because, the rates, and it's going to be a little bit more difficult, and underwriting is going to be a nightmare. So nugget out here. If you want to buy a house, I recommend you have at least a 640 and above credit score, period. Now, if you need help with your credit, you have 3 options right here. Number 1, I'll put the link in the description and a link in the pinned comment. You can schedule a credit Jumpstart call that will give you a plan for you to buy a property. Investment is small, only like $197. You guys spend that on Uber Eats, on hair, and on coffee, okay? And that will be a specific plan for you with a board-certified credit consultant on my team. That's option number 1. Option number 2 is you can schedule a coaching strategy session with me directly. that is a higher investment because you're working one-on-one with me via Zoom, and you'll get the recording. I can help you with your business and or with home ownership. Totally up to you. Or number 3, if you cannot invest in either one of those services, then I have tons of courses on how to raise your personal credit scores. Invest in a course, work on your credit, go get your property, okay? And I will even, bonus, I am going to spend the time to put, I think, about 3 to 5 videos in the description and the pinned comments, guys. I have a video on motivated sellers. I have a video on how to buy a house with no money down. I have a video for first-time home buyer guide. I even have a video on debt-to-income ratio that none of y'all watched. So I will put like 3 or 4 videos in the description and the pinned comments. That means if you have $0 and 0 cents, but you need to save up something to buy a house, to be honest with you, right? If you're serious, come on, somebody, then you can watch these videos, write down a list of action items, and execute. I put out enough free content where people have executed and gotten 6- and 7-figure results. The only investment is your time. So income, assets, credit. Income was my full-time job. I had been there for 3 years. Most lenders want to see at least 2 years of verifiable income, okay? So that can be either you're self-employed or that can be, you have a job, right? And sometimes, guys, you could, like maybe you got laid off, maybe you switched jobs. That does not mean it's necessarily a deal breaker. It's just 2 years of verifiable income. It doesn't necessarily mean 2 years with the same employer. Be educated, get information from an expert, make decisions based on the facts, okay? So I had a job for 3 years, making $14 an hour. I had low debt, so my debt to income ratio was fine. I had verifiable income, which meant I had 2 pay stubs, write this down, 3 months bank statements, and 2 years of taxes. Okay, and then my down payment. I had been saving for a house because I made a decision. That's a nugget. This is one of your action items. Make a decision. I want to buy a house by whatever date it is, right? So I'm making this video in December of 2023. So you're saying, I want to buy a house by June 2024. I want to buy a house by March 2024. Some of you guys, I talked to you one-on-one and like literally within 30 days or like within a week, but just because you didn't know what you really needed, I'm calling and getting you a mortgage pre-approval. I've had people where they've spoken to me and gotten a mortgage pre-approval the next day because they just didn't even understand what they needed and they were already in position. Come on, somebody. Okay, so you're putting a date to it. Now pause right here, guys. Literally, some of us had stimulus checks, and what did we spend it on? It's about to be income tax time for some people. You get that income tax refund. Guys, that's you can use your income tax refund as a down payment on a property. There's seller's assistance. There's first-time home buyer grants. Yes, the market changes, so you want to save as much money as possible. Some of you guys have money in your savings. Some have money in your checking. Some have money in your 401k that you can take out as a loan or a withdrawal. Some have dividends. Like, you'd be surprised, but if you want it bad enough, you will find the money. And if everything else is in place and you don't have the money, still reach out because some lenders nugget have down payment assistance. There's also first-time home buyer grants. So there is a ton of programs out there available to help people become first-time home buyers, okay? And I didn't even talk about house hacking. I'll put that in the video because there's also a way to leverage a first-time home buyer mortgage, aka a FHA mortgage, to kind of get into real estate, and that's called house hacking. I've done a ton of videos on there and masterclasses. I'll link that, okay? But this first property was for me and my son. Period. So the income was my 2 years of my employment. I was there for 3 years. My credit scores were above 700. For you, have at least a 640 and above is what I recommend. And then my down payment, I had been saving some money every single paycheck to have the money to put down on the property. And I had gotten 6% seller's assistance. So the people that were selling the house, seller's assistance means that they actually agree to pay some of my closing costs because they're helping me buy this property. And in this case, they would help me buy this property because they wanted to move quickly. Okay, so guys, $80,000, that was the very first house. And then I bought another property. I sold that to level up and bought I had gotten married. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day, okay? At like 24. But anyway, and that was the beginning of my real estate career. Now, all of that led to this wealth building ministry now because I'm super passionate about not just building your credit, guys, but building your credit to leverage to build wealth. Nugget. I only use my credit for income producing assets or income producing information. Income producing information is like a masterclass, a course, coaching, something of that nature. Income producing assets is like building my business, buying a property, investing in a business, something of that nature that's going to bring me actual income. So very first property, $14 an hour, $80,000 changed everything for me. And from that point on, I understood that looking good on paper is a way to change my reality. Got it good. I hope that was helpful, guys. And for my nugget, I'm just going to say it. God is not going to bless the person you pretend to be. God is not going to bless the person you pretend to be. If you really want to step out on faith, you really want to monetize your passion, you really want to use your gifts, you really want to be the change agent, the person that breaks generational cycles of poverty, then you're going to have to do the work for real. Really make sure you're reading, really make sure you're exercising, really make sure you're working on your credit, really make sure you're working on a budget, really make sure you're saving, really make sure you're investing, really make sure you're tithing. Stop saying that you're doing all these things, but you're really not doing them and thinking you're going to have different results. If you want different results, you have to do something different. Period. I'm even going to add right there being coachable and trainable. Guys, I can't tell you how many people, a lot of you guys are good, but some people invest in coaching even with me, and every time I say something, they got the answer. Well, I do this and I do that, but this, but that, but this, but that. Well, what is the point of you investing in coaching if you have all the answers? One of the things one of my mentors said to me is that you must be coachable and trainable, especially if you want to level up, because if there is a result that you desire that you don't have, that means that there's maybe missing information, missing tasks, missing action items, something of that nature. So when you speak to somebody who has the result, come on, somebody, then you actually listen and take heed and actually execute. Or maybe you look at it a different way, or maybe you execute with a different level of hustle. But you have to be coachable and trainable. And I'm even going to add every leader, including myself. I have like 4 coaches, right? Because I have coaches in different areas. I have one for my spirituality. I have one for relationships and love. I have one that's also my financial coach and a business coach, right? All of your leaders should have a leader, period, because the essence of being a good leader is being a good student. You have to also be a good steward and be practicing what you preach. So I am a coach. I coach thousands of people, but I also have people that hold me accountable. And those people, my coaches, have people that hold them accountable. Great leaders are great students. And the reason why there's a 1% that have different results is because when somebody tells them, hey, change this, do this, don't do this, add this, they execute at a high level because they are coachable and trainable. God is not going to bless the person you pretend to be. So if you really want it, start making the changes now. Amen. I hope that was helpful.